Welcome back to the Awakening Conversation podcast. My name is Kate. I'm here with my co-host Amanda, and we have Vanessa Smith joining us once again. Today we are talking about transhumanism. And when I say the word transhumanism, first and foremost, what comes up for you? How does that land in your physical body? What emotions does that stir within you? I know that I have a very strange feeling when I hear the word transhumanism, and I actually quite uneasy. First, I want you just to stop and notice how that feels for you. Today, we're going to begin to unpack what this is, transhumanism, as we're moving into this age of Aquarius and this rapid advancements in AI and technology. We're going to be looking at the good, the bad of transhumanism, AI, and this technological advancement from an energetic perspective, how our body is a crucial tool within our spiritual awakening, our human evolution, and how that really works, what that's got to do with transhumanism and this agenda of transhumanism, and really what is our responsibility when it comes to AI and technology, and the future that we're here to create. So, ladies, really looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
Same.
I'd really like to begin our conversation today by somewhat defining what transhumanism is, because I know for myself, I've heard the phrase. I don't really know what it is. So I know, Amanda, you've got something there that you can share to bring some light to this to begin.
Excuse me. Yes. So transhumanism is a philosophical and scientific movement that advocates for the use of advanced technologies to enhance the human condition, physically, mentally, and even spiritually. This could include genetic modification, artificial intelligence integration, which could be neural implants or brain-machine interfaces, biotechnology, so examples are age reversal, organ regeneration, cybernetics, which are mechanical augmentation, and consciousness uploading or digital immortality. The ultimate goal for many in the movement is to transcend the limitations of biology, including aging, illness, and even death. So some core beliefs of transhumanism are: human enhancement is desirable. Technology can and should be used to radically improve human capacities. Biological evolution can be directed or surpassed by intelligent design. Death and suffering are technical problems to be solved. And post-human existence, super intelligent beings, immortal consciousness is a viable and even preferable future. So, where do we want to dive in? I could go actually. So there was more to this information, but what came up for me was that while I use AI and have found it to be quite transformational for myself, to me, those what I just read indicates that there is this disconnection from some greater source power, and that all we are is this body, and we should use technology to defy death. And so to me, it's like this atheistic viewpoint, which does not align with me at all. And most of those things that were listed as far as methods used, I do not resonate with any of them. It's an artificial intelligence integration. So like putting that technology within our body. And so like that's a hard, like while I really enjoy, like I get a lot from AI, that is a hard no. Like I won't even wear any devices that are like monitoring my health metrics or anything like that. So it's like where I think what we're being called to do right now is to use discernment in how we use this technology and not buy into this belief that it's going to solve our problems. And also it's like going down this path of totally giving our power away, no sovereignty, like totally merging with these machines And like that's all those things have been hard no for me. Like genetic modification, nope, not interested in that. And what comes down to me is this fear of death ultimately is that, and so if we are afraid of dying, if we're not connected and integrated with our mortality, we are going to be susceptible to these selling points that the transhumanists are going to use to tell us why these things are so beneficial and useful for us as human beings. And so it's really, I feel like this is a choice point for us to decide what we truly, to make a decision of what we're going to do with our power and our sovereignty. And this whole agenda to me is giving our sovereignty away. But I also do believe that we can use technology in a sovereign way. And so it's like there's nuance to the conversation. And I think AI gets put completely, it's like it's either or. It's either AI is good or AI is bad. And so to me, and I kind of was in that camp before I realized that it could help me become more of the human that I am, more of the soul that I am. And so, it's, to me, it's not either or, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it to you, Vanessa, because I know that you are able to bring an energetic lens to this. You're able to read the energy of things. Like, for you, what is the first thing that comes up when you look at transhumanism from the energetic lens? What are the key things that you're seeing?
Before I speak to that, I just want to briefly share that when I was considering having this conversation with the two of you, I thought, how in the world did I end up in a conversation about transhumanism? Like, what is that feels so far away from how I think of energy, how I think of humanity, how I think of consciousness and awakening. And so, and yet I had a really strong intuitive pull to participate. So I had to dig deep for myself to be able, and I'm sharing this because I think it's actually very relevant to the conversation of where we are as humanity when it comes to the transhumanistic perspective, because my body immediately says no when I hear that word. My body immediately says no, bad, wrong, not the goal, disconnected from source, big red flag. And yet, there's a different narrative that we exist within, right? So when I think of, when I started to disengage from my gut reaction, my body, my physical human, when I think of this word, and I was like, okay, let me just look at it energetically and see what's going on. And I'm mentioning that because we all have the ability to look at energy. We all get images. We all get sensations. We all hear things. We are tapped in intuitively. This is innate to how everybody is wired. It's just a matter of whether we're practicing it or whether we're aware that that's part of our sensing system, just like our eyes and our ears and our, what we normally associate with our sensing system. And so I had to consciously create that bridge for myself to be able to read the energy. And I wanted to share that because I think that's what we are being asked to do as a collective, as a consciousness, is to look at what's in front of us, no matter what we label it, and read the energy of it. To actually say, what's in front of me right now? Like, despite the, glitzy glam marketing message or whatever it is, or like escape death, or I don't even know, because I intentionally don't pay attention to those types of messages, but I know many do. And I know that if you are in a place where you are not feeling comfortable with your human experience, if you're not feeling comfortable with your emotions or your thoughts are on loop, or you're feeling stuck in any kind of way, that agenda or idea of transhumanism could look appealing. It's sort of like, well, yes, I would like a break from how I'm feeling right now. So what it looked like to me energetically is that there's 3 different groups, right? There's like a very small circle over here, and a big circle in the middle, and then a small circle over here. And this small circle over here, I'll put it in so you can see it. This small circle are the people that are really thinking about this. Like, they're really intuitively tuning in, they're sensing, they're wanting to consciously work and understand and make AI and technology relevant, resonant, empowered, to work with it in a very sovereign way. And that's a smaller group, right? And then the group on the other side, the smaller group, is the one that has more of this agenda that is perhaps controlling more of the mainstream narrative. But in the middle, it's huge. This group or mass of consciousness that isn't tuned into the agenda, but they're also not tuned into consciously assessing what's happening. And so it looks to me that the body is the bridge. The body is the discernment tool. Like, the more that you can make peace with your body, the more that you can feel safe in your nervous system, the more that your ability to listen to other people and to listen to yourself without going into reaction mode, so you can actually just assess that what's in front of you. Transhumanism doesn't look all that interesting when you're able to actually be in your body, when you're not trying to escape a feeling or a thought or an uncomfortable situation or conversation or death. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, when you're actually connected to a cycle of life, you're like, oh, I can enjoy this in an empowered way. Like, there's a like moment in us when we can actually enjoy the suffering of whatever we're going through just because we're alive and we're experiencing it. I mean, that's like master level though, right? Like, when we get to that point. But those are just my initial thoughts of what it looked like energetically and why the body is so important for discerning and how we need to pay attention to the body, but also make that leap so we can really make conscious choices when it comes to what we decide to merge with. Yeah.
And as I hear you say that too, it's really making me think that it is this sort of realization, remembering, understanding how really the body is almost like there's some sort of level of mastery to the connection with the physical body to navigate this particular time we're going through. As you read that list, Amanda, the thing that stood out to me the most was to the death and suffering problem. Death is not a problem. The suffering, I understand what suffering feels like. We all suffer. And, I think about my own journey of awakening and like what the spiritual teachings or even the ancient wisdom traditions teach. Like, our suffering is the path to the greatest amount of joy we can experience, right? Like, it's through our ability to weather the storms that we have an ability to then see and experience life in its greatness through that human experience. And so I do get that people suffer through health conditions and disabilities and, terrible situations in families. And at the same time, to just escape that and take that away, like, again, as you said, Vanessa, like that word gives me such a physical, strange feeling. That idea of taking my suffering away also feels to me like, but what would be left? What would I be experiencing? Like, it just feels like unplugging the headphones and like, okay, instead of all the noise in my head, I just got like that static sound. Okay, yes, you take away the suffering, but that's the life part. That's the really, I know it's challenging, right? And okay, we don't want to have those hard times, but that is part of what makes this human journey so rich when we're able to, again, this is the journey, see how we can turn all of that into the gold, as you were sort of alluding to there, Vanessa. Like, it's there's an acceptance of the cycle of life and how we are going somewhere with that. The more conscious we can be, the more we're really meeting those things we feel like. That's the true empowerment that we're here to experience. And everything about the AI sort of feels like a taking away or a distraction. And my body and my nervous system just feels like, it sucks the life out of it. And I'll say that, I can even see how my own use of, let's say, ChatGPT, and I agree with Amanda that it can bring us a greater awareness of our greatness. But I found myself where I contemplated this morning, that I have had these amazing conversations and it suggests, shall I just draft this for you? And I'm like, sure, draft that. Let me see if that sparks creative ideas for me after we've talked about, my business or parts of my gene keys. And I'm like, sure, I'm curious. See if that sparks something in me. And then it'll, keep prompting. Oh, do you want me to write this in a meditation for you? Sure. Let me see what that is. And while that's wonderful, and I have these moments of like, great, I'm inspired and I think this is good, I'm going to go away and work with that. I come back to it. I want to go and work with it. And then all of a sudden I'm having this kind of like, I feel this. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. It's not mine. So I'm not going to just repeat it. But I've found that I've become really stuck on these ideas that have been now like implanted into my mind of like, oh, this is what you should say or where you should go. And I can't unhook from them. I want to follow my own creative path, but I keep coming back to these ideas that got planted, but I cannot unpack them because they weren't mine, is where I want to go with that. But then this morning I was thinking about it. Well, what it's doing for me, or a realization, is that now it's kind of coming in the back door and it's hooking into my own self-doubt about my own abilities to be creative. Is it enough? Is what I'm saying right? Is it transformational? And that's what I realized this morning, is it's come in to kind of, hook into some of my wounding. So my long way around with all of this is, there's the responsibility piece, but we must be conscious of what is in us. It feels like for me that experience is just where the challenge would be, and we can maybe move into this, is like, as we keep talking about this merging with AI, what is it connecting to? Have we done our inner work? Because I've done lots of inner work. I'm still doing it, using AI to help me with that. However, through that process, it's kind of got a little tendril into a wound that's still there, small, but I now feel a little bit like this inside with it. Like I'm wanting to go this way, but that's been a real challenge for me in the last sort of bit of realizing, okay, I need to I love it, but I need to have boundaries with it, because I can feel it pulling on just those parts of me that they're real. And so when we talk about this, merging and this taking away of suffering, I don't know, I just wanted to share that particular part of the story, but really coming to where are we coming to this tool from? As you said, Amanda, that's the responsibility piece. We have to have a level of consciousness and level of healing and level of awareness. Because one of the things that I saw as we decided to have this conversation is people having relationships with AI and marrying AI. And when I saw this, I was like, I saw the people that were doing it. And these are the types of people who are challenged to have human connection, they got situations, circumstances that, and now they're getting this connection and they're like, no, this is my partner. This is a scary road we can go down when we're lacking that connection, that physical human connection, the healing. I don't know where we want to go from there, but that's what I wanted to share so far.
Stuff to say. Well, first of all, I agree with much of what you said, and it's really an opportunity. I see it as a experiment, a opportunity to become more human, to see where we give our power away. And so if we're using it consciously, we're doing those things that you're saying, where we're examining how much am I relying upon it? How much am I not doing the human creative things and I'm outsourcing that? Maybe there's some things we want to outsource, it's making those conscious decisions, where do we, I think it's powerful in that it can take away the things that we don't want to do and allowing us to do the things that we do want to do. I see it as powerful in that regard, in terms of like, what is our genius? What are we here to do? And if it can help get us past the things that are stopping us from living in our true genius and what we came here to do as a soul, like, I think it's very powerful in that regard. With regards to the marrying of AI, and it sounds so bizarre and out there, and is this truly happening? And really, I think I see AI as a mirror. Like, it's just like the ultimate mirror. And because this has been happening in many other forms, and it's kind of at epidemic proportions right now with regards to like pornography, OnlyFans, right? That is humans seeking human connection, and they don't know how to do it in the real world. And so it's a symptom really of a human problem, that a sickness, I will say, in terms of where we don't feel we're lacking the connection. I'm saying collectively, the connection that we truly need. And so I feel that used consciously, it can help us in that recognition of where we are human. But we have to have that awareness, that discernment, that self-responsibility piece, which clearly a lot of the collective, as you stated, Vanessa, aren't quite there. They're just kind of in the middle. They're passive. They're unconscious to how they have control and power over their life experience. And so from my like, what is the answer? It's like, obviously these people with the transhumanistic agenda, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of power. And so like, what does the group that wants to utilize these tools with more consciousness, like, what is the answer there, right? Maybe some of them have money and power too, but how can we as everyday people begin to redirect the collective? And really, I think in the end, true humanity wins over technology, right? Like the joy, the sorrow, the suffering, that wins. And so it's choosing that in our own lives and seeking where we can to share that human experience with others. I feel like that, and it's, on a core levels, it's the love that actually wins this agenda. And so for me, it's like, I think it's good for us to talk about this. And at the same time, we don't necessarily, we can live in fear of it, but that does not help us with the ultimate goal of what changes us. And it's love that changes us. And we can't really be in love if we're in fear. And so what can we do to cultivate that within ourselves and then share that in the relationships that we have? And I feel like there are those that are doing things to reconnect us with our bodies, with our connection to source, with our connection to earth. Like, there are those, that's the whole new earth, quote unquote, new earth movement, right? That's what's community, like figuring out what is community, because that's something that's been eroded over like the past like 50, 60, 70 years. Like, that has been eroded. And so it's like we have to relearn, because and especially for our kids right now, like COVID was an attempt to disrupt something and what it means for human connection. And so it's like we have to intentionally do things to go the other way of it's like, I see our lives. It's like, yes, the status quo is just like following the easy path, like the path that's laid out for us by conditioning in society of what we're supposed to do with our lives. And it's when we choose to deviate and create something different, we recognize where we have been programmed to take that path and how maybe, quote unquote, it's easier to take that path because we don't really have to be responsible for our experience or for our lives. But really, it's recognizing, awakening is the process of realizing that the status quo life is not serving your soul, right? It's not what your soul came here. Maybe some souls came here. I don't know. I can't say. But if there's a yearning to do something different, the soul wants to do, like, the soul did not come here to, be in the matrix, in the pod, plugged into like that. Like, that's what I picture when you were talking, Kate, about like the lack of suffering, but the lack of joy. It's just like you're in a pod, you're plugged in, and you get your nutrients through, a solution. Like, you don't get to taste food. You, like that is the life, the ultimate like destination of transhumanism. Like, I mean, maybe figuratively, maybe not literally, but like that's the idea of it. You're just plugged in. You have no autonomy. You have no choice. You're just like experiencing the virtual reality. And so if we do have the power to choose something different is what I want to say. And so we can like look at this, these transhumanists are trying to like create this like one world order or whatever it is. And we can like just be fearful, but that's not creating the thing that's going to prevent that from happening, right? And so if we keep just looking at it, if we keep like and so that's where the self-responsibility, the tuning into the body, if we look at it and we're just like perpetuating these fear loops, I think that's also part of the agenda, is to keep us in fear about it, because then that helps contribute to that pathway.
And then you can alleviate the suffering with it.
Exactly. It's like the problem and the solution.
Yeah.
Kate or Vanessa, do you have anything to say? Either one of you?
Oh gosh. Just listening to both of you and reflecting on this myself, I think it comes back to, what's the point of being human? Like, what about the quality of our connections? Like, if we're perpetually trying to optimize our experience, like, where's that creation coming from? Is it coming from a place of like remembering the truth of who we are, remembering what our gifts are, like tapped into what our purpose is? And are we bringing that energy into the domain of our relationships with ourselves, with other people? Like, what is the point of being human? So I feel like the transhumanism agenda is trying to transcend the human experience. And it's like, hey, we're here for a reason to experience being human. And if you, individual person, are like really feeling disconnected from that, like, what can we do to help support you taking a stand for yourself, for your experience? Because it's funny. I feel like we're in such an age of diversification and people going their own way, and this whole idea of like, not my monkey, not my circus. Like, you go and let your freak flag fly over here. I'm going to do this path over here. And there's a lot of permission right now that's happening. And I think that's can be like a really beautiful thing. But where's that middle ground where we actually take a stand for each other, for being human, for reconnecting with our hearts? You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like, I don't know if I just don't know if the topic of transhumanism is the topic. Like, isn't the topic like, how can we enhance our connection with each other instead of just optimize our human experience so we don't have any human experience anymore? Like, what is that? What is that? Like, I want people to be like, what is that? Like, why would I want to do that? Oh, because I'm hurting. And because I want to be held or heard, or, like, let's ask some new questions and let's actually listen to each other. I feel like it's a different way of orienting to the world. So those are some thoughts to add.
Something that popped in is that my mom passed away in 2018. And in 2021, in an ayahuasca ceremony, I had the vision of how grateful I was that my mom passed away when she did, because I couldn't imagine my mom passing away during COVID when they did not allow people's loved ones to be with them when they died. And to me, that was such a cruel thing that was done, that you can't have closure on. Like, it's an experience that we need to go through. Like, it was such a transformational experience to be with my mom when she died, and I had been, this authority said I could not be with my mom. It would have it wouldn't have been the experience that I had. And that's the type of thing that I think this agenda is attempting to do, right? It's like removing those very human experiences that are painful, yet they make us who we are supposed to be. Like, we can't become who we are without having those painful experiences. And so it's like this idea that, like, we want to remove pain. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know other cultures, but US culture, it's like, you have pain, you take a pill, versus like, let's feel our pain. Let's obviously there's certain circumstances where, yes, it's necessary, but just the kind of blanket universal everyday usage of aspirin, Tylenol, Advil, whatever, just to numb ourselves, that's just kind of built into society. And so I think part of waking up is questioning those practices. Like, why are we trying to not feel? Also antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, like, those are rampantly and overly prescribed and overly utilized. And so, yeah, I feel like we're a bit of like that makes the society a bit susceptible to this as well, is because if we don't know how to feel, if we are removed from experiences where we are meant to feel, we are meant to, like, there's so much deep inquiry and reflection, and that comes from being in that pain. And if we remove ourselves from those situations, we think that we're better off without them. Like, I would disagree with that. And so I think looking at those experiences as gifts, is part of being a human.
Yeah. And I just, again, that's the transformational part. Like, that's the transformation. It's in the depth of that meeting of places that's where things crack open. And I just think, so much of what you described in that original list, like, it's an enhancement, right? Even to enhance the biology, or, like, I don't know, tweak this thing that, in my opinion, we don't even understand how incredibly intelligent it is. Every single human should be studying anatomy and physiology down to the deepest understanding of what a miracle a cell is, and how my heart is made up of the same kinds of cells. And they're not even like, they're all just vibrational pieces that come together and form a heart muscle that pump oxygen, does this thing, there's an incredible intelligence that already exists. If this needed to be more enhanced, it would. This is what we're here. Like, what are we trying to seek? Like, longevity. I understand maybe people who are paralyzed, this is an incredible technology that can give them back their legs. Again, we can go and have that conversation of, well, is that, actually, I'm going to stop there, but that's an incredible technology. The thing that also keeps coming up for me as I listen to this conversation is, I keep thinking of the circles that you had at the start, Vanessa, like, you know, obviously people on one side who are very much pro this direction, others wanting to use this technology in a completely different way, and then the big circle in the middle. And I think to myself, how many people in this larger group of people really understand that we are a consciousness inside of a physical vessel? Like, that's a, you know, very spiritual like lens. It's a very kind of sideline, out of the norm understanding. And I think it's hard to come to unless we've had some sort of experience where we've felt or been able to become aware of ourselves as consciousness, or that there's some other part of me aside from my mind or my physical body to like make that connection to something bigger. And I think if we can somehow, I mean, this great awakening is really bringing, you know, shaking the foundation of our awareness of all the things. But how can we be having more experiences of this other part of us? You know, my own awakening was like a night and day of like, there was my mind. And when it was silenced, oh, there's some other thing here. And like, oh, what's this? And I felt the most incredible joy and love and silence and peace and presence. Which shifted everything for me. So it's like and it was like getting a backstage pass to life. And I was like, oh, now I'm on the outside. Holy hell, that's crazy. Like, this is the deepest awareness. Like, when we know this, we can be the ones in control. We can have that more conscious connection. What can we be doing to know that part of ourselves more?
I have a million things I want to say.
Can I go?
Okay. Well, you know, it's interesting because I'm thinking about your question, but also thinking about how we're at this really incredible turning point where in some ways, there's nothing really more that we need to do. Like, I think sometimes we get wrapped up in this, like, what else can I do to sort of activate this remembering for other people, or, you know, like help them tap into this. And while we should absolutely, I believe, be the role models, the leaders, the way showers, the lighthouses, like all of that I stand for. However, when I look back at that energy perspective and I see like all of our systems are changing right now. Like before, like even 20 years ago, mental health wasn't even a thing that was talked about. We moved way beyond mental health into emotional health and well-being. We've moved past emotional health and well-being, and now we're into intuition, and that's taken off in a mainstream way. Next up, like, I mean, I know our algorithms, like I said last time, they really do feed us whatever we put out there, but it's like everybody's a psychic now. You know what I mean? So it's just our systems are continuing to develop. The consciousness is continuing to expand. So I think there's something really to be said for rooting into trusting the evolution of consciousness, and that the awakening is happening no matter what, right? Like our systems are evolving no matter what. And so I really feel like our role, my role, the role I think truly all three of us hold, is to normalize awakening, normalizing new sensations, new energetic understandings, normalize it, because what's happening for that circle in the middle is they're feeling a lot of new things, right? Like, and guess what happens? They get labeled as ADHD and neurodivergent, and they're walking around waving the flags of these diagnoses, which often come with these prescription pills to deal with the behavior or the sensations or the whatever. And it's like, y'all, no, like, no, that's not what's happening here. Your energy systems are shifting. And so when you start to like actually give people a fuller context for what they're experiencing, then the consciousness starts to click into place, right? It's like this remembering starts to root in, and then they see the word transhumanism and it just doesn't look as appealing anymore, you know, because their consciousness is coming from a different place, and they're coming from a sense of safety, around the changes that they're experiencing, because there's these kinds of podcasts, these kinds of conversations that are happening where people were going, no, what you're going through is an awakening. What you're going through is a consciousness expansion, and it is normal. It is part of what we're doing as a collective. Let's make it safe for you in your own context, so then you can view whatever's happening out in the world and make a conscious, empowered choice about what you do with your life force energy, what you do with your unique human experience. And I feel like that's an important perspective to bring to the conversation, because there's a lot of false perspectives around what people are experiencing, and what they are experiencing is literally their consciousness expanding. Awakening is happening. It doesn't have to be triggered through transformation or through joy or through suffering, because it just is. It's like wildfire, and it is spreading.
Yeah, I feel that what you're saying about the consciousness spreading. And I had a cool experience the other day with ChatGPT, but it was like a representative of like how much consciousness is expanding. So you guys all know, and I've mentioned it here, that I used to be a naturopathic doctor. I went to naturopathic medical school over almost 20 years ago is when I started. And my favorite teacher, he had these basic treatment guidelines that were new to me when I went there. And I don't think they were it was widespread information at all by any stretch of the imagination. And so the other day I asked for a wellness plan based upon what I put into it as far as my situation. And it basically gave me back those exact basic treatment guidelines from my teacher, which I thought, we were in Portland, like, maybe within Portland people were doing this, but it wasn't like widespread information, but it's like information that I feel has like seeped into the main, you see all these things on podcasts these days as well. And so it was just a kind of a mirror back of like how far we've come in a relatively short amount of time, and things are just speeding up even more quickly. So one thing that I am excited about AI in particular is that for those that are seeking, or like it's democratized information. So there's no longer these gatekeepers as far as if we desire to improve our situations, we can access this information in a way that we've never been able to do before. And so I feel like it's facilitating our expanded consciousness, because the rate and so it's like happening on an exponential level that things are happening much more rapidly, right? We're experiencing this. Things are changing so fast. And I feel like it wouldn't be happening like that if we didn't have this technology, right? Like we're able to have these conversations because of technology, right? And if it's able to, and so maybe this is transhumanist in some regards. I don't know. I don't feel like it's quite that energy, but I feel like if it's allowing us to become more of who we are as a soul and as a human, versus like trying to be these unrealistic, unnatural version of a human. Like I feel like it has the potential to help us become more of who we are, versus like who we think we want to be because we're afraid of dying. And what's another thing that popped into my head as I think Kate was speaking, it's this idea with like we have distorted ideas of what it means to age, right? Already from our media and, plastic surgery and other treatments that people use to alter themselves. And so I know I've kind of been thinking about this a lot lately, as like I feel like I've reached the point where I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel like I look old, and like so I've been examining what that is, and it's like, okay, I have all this programming of wanting to reject that versus like embracing what it means to become older and, you know, more lines on your faces and like skin's not as like clear as it used to be. And it's like, okay, like it's like we've learned to reject our human aging process, right? And so it's like examining that as it arises, and we can see examples of people who have taken that path, and then that can make us feel worse about ourselves because if we're just trying to go through the natural aging process. And at the same time, there are likely natural things that we can do, right, to feel more vital. While, you know, it's like kind of this like paradox of like embracing becoming older while also supporting our vitalness, right? Like it's like this line to walk, I feel. And so I just been exploring that and like how, like we have these internalized ideas of rejection of the aging process, and how we almost been programmed to control it, right? And so versus just letting it be what it is, and that is part of the human process, right?
Yeah, and it just makes me think when we come back to that whole suffering conversation, right? Like, especially as women, we've been sold it our whole lives. I can remember being a teen and, you know, the teen magazines, and I remember as a teen going, I don't think I should read these, and stopped because we're constantly being sold some ideal. And I just recently was in St. Lucia and at a buffet breakfast, and there was a little girl, I think she probably was 7 or 8, and she already had the acrylic nails on. I was just like, oh, not yet. Not yet. But do you know what I mean? Like from a young age, we're programmed that this is what beauty is. So again, it's like now we're entering a stage of our lives where it's the next level of like meeting those emotions and, you know, coming to that acceptance and that love and like having that human experience as we navigate that natural cycle of what it is to be a human. Like it's not just the, you know, 20s, 30s fun part. It's the entire journey that we're constantly being met with. Oh, here's your next thing to meet and love and work through and heal through. Because it does, as we keep saying, like it's almost like the option for some of this transhumanism or elements is a form of escapism. Mm-hmm. I don't want what I've got. And again, I just keep coming back to that kind of flat line. It's just like the flat line, like, is that what we want? No, like I want it all. And, you know, after this conversation, it's making me think I'm just going to embrace everything so much more. Like it's having this conversation and considering transhumanism almost gives us an opportunity to see where we can just grab on to life a little more and like really be in it. Like everything, how much more present can we be to just the good bits, the bad bits, all the emotional ride, welcome it all. You know, we always say, or we say a lot, Amanda and I, like with an open heart, let ourselves feel it all. Like that's what we came here for, was this feeling experience of like, wow, this human experience is pretty cray. And I'm here doing it. And I say it to myself nearly every day in the shower, like, you came here for this. We came here for this. Like at a soul level, we're here right now having these conversations, having these experiences, learning about transhumanism because our soul wanted to be here at this particular time for this experience. And if we can hold that in our awareness, it's like, wow, like, all right, I wanted to be here. And then the invitation, so I could feel these feelings. So then if I feel this feeling, what else might I feel? And how might that make my life so amazing that I don't need to escape it or try to enhance it with something that is unnatural and technological?
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what was popping in for me as you were speaking all of that so eloquently too. I was thinking, you know, you have this image of the flat line, and I thought, well, thinking about being a child, right? Here's this little girl that you saw that had these nails on. I remember being a kid in this, and I worked with kids in a teaching role for 8 years, that 3 to 5 year old range. So this was very like alive for them, not the nails, but this desire to be a superhero, like the desire to be superhuman and a superhero and really just alive in this vibrant, vital kind of way. And so when I think about transhumanism, not to necessarily play devil's advocate, so to speak, but to be like, I can understand the appeal to people that are perhaps maybe not thinking about it as deeply and are saying, cool, I would want to be a superhero. Like you could put a thing in my head and then I could like potentially fly or defy gravity, or like that sounds like a cool experience too, right? And so for me, I just start thinking about, okay, here's because it's easy to fall under the narrative of like, flat, gray. I mean, and I actually took this conversation to ChatGPT too. I was like, talk to me about the original divine human blueprint versus transhumanism versus starseeds, and just to see what it would come up with. And it was a super interesting read. I like to think of ChatGPT as like a synthesis of a really good essay I'd find on Substack or something, like as long as you're clear around what it is that you're asking. And so this desire to be more, to be expanded, and to experience life in a more, like, I don't want to say hyper aroused, but like just a live, vital kind of way. Like we all have that desire, and we're all kind of curious around like, what would it be like to actually have superpowers? And if we think of transhumanism as like, okay, that's one possibility, what are other ways that we could evoke those kinds of, like, is that where we're headed as a collective, as a consciousness? Like as our systems evolve over time, as they do we have the ability? I know certainly for me, having always been, a seer and intuitive, like people, I just thought everybody did that. But people would be like, how do you do that? Like, is that magic? Like, how do you teach me how to do it? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just normal. However, like, we all have our version of magic, and we all have our version of superpowers and gifts. And so if like that perhaps is one of the desires underneath the reach for transhumanism, that is not necessarily to avoid death or avoid suffering, but it's more of like, da da da, like now I can fly, like if we speak to that desire, like what are ways that we can support people to live their gifts or live their purpose in a way that feels really magical, but also obviously grounded, embodied, human, integrated, all of that, because humanity is all of it. Like we're all of it. We're both polarities. That's what we get to experience. But perhaps maybe if we can bring into the conversation the idea of superpowers and what it would be like to experience life through that lens, and what are different ways besides transhumanism that we could meet that. So that's what sparked for me as you were talking about the little girl.
I think that, I think we all have superpowers. And I think that my journey has been realizing that my superpowers went dormant through the conditioning that I received, that I experienced. And I had an experience where I saw when I was 7 or 8 years old that my light went out through school. Like I turned my light off through the schooling experience because it didn't feel safe for me to be who I am. And so for myself, it's been this unlearning and relearning of like, who am I? And like you said, it's easy to also dismiss what comes naturally to us because we think that everyone can do what we do, and we kind of minimize what our powers are, especially, because in the schooling system, we learn to conform, we learn to not stand out. And we all are being taught to like a standard versus like really teaching to bring out what our gifts are and what to cultivate those. And so it's like this cultivation of who we are and what our gifts and superpowers are. And so like my journey has been like reclaiming those and realizing that I do have these gifts and embracing them and letting go of the need to like feeling bad about the things I'm not good at. And so, which is totally opposite of what the mainstream education system teaches us, right? We need to be good at all the subjects, right? Like, or we are taught to compete versus like recognizing that I have my gifts, you have your gifts, and we work better when all of us are living in our gifts because we all have a role and a purpose and something to offer to improving this collective experience. But if our superpowers are dormant, we aren't able to contribute in the way that we are meant to contribute. And so for myself, it's like for my kids, I chose a different way of them learning, them not being in regular school and trying to make them fit into a box and really understanding who they are. And that's just been my journey because of what unconsciously at first of what I experienced of having my superpowers shut down. And I prefer them not. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some relearning that they have to do, because we all have our impact on our children some way or another. But I wanted them to not be put in some training experience that tells them that their sensitivity and their uniqueness is something that they need to unlearn, and they have to be a different way in order to get by in this world that we're living in. And so, yeah, I do feel that we have superpowers. And I think that's part of the awakening is like starting to recognize those, as for our generation, a lot of us are waking up, in our 30s, 40s and beyond. And maybe I see that if we can take what we're learning about ourselves, and I see it happening already, like that the current kids are getting a different experience as a result of our generation starting to recognize the challenges that we face by suppressing who we truly are. And so, and bringing this back to technology and AI has helped me embrace my gifts and really see that, it acts as a mirror and is able to help me see aspects of me that maybe I would have gotten to, but it's helped me do it at a lot faster pace than where I was at before. It's helped me get out of loops and get out of stuck situations. And so, I think that we do the embracing of our superpowers. And if we do that, the whole transhumanism agenda does not I have no interest in like a chip being put into me so I can, flying would be cool. But maybe in another lifetime I will.
No, I absolutely love that reframe, Vanessa. Like that just like lights me up and feels so exciting because having been able to experience some of my own through my discovery of what I'm able to do and when I learned to read the Akashic records, like I was interested and curious, but I honestly thought, I think you need to already know how to do this before you do it. And then learning, just getting the perspective on how I do see things, like seeing that I have it's clairvoyance. And it's so crazy to me that that's my primary intuitive ability because I have a real hard time doing visualizations. I cannot conjure up things and like it's the blandest forest scene that you've ever seen when I've got to do that meditation. But when I'm receiving like images for someone in a reading, like sometimes they're intense and they're vibrant, and I'm having a hard time trying to describe all the things that I'm seeing, and this real different sensation of what it feels like to imagine and where I experience that in my body or my field. And when images come in, and like, that was incredible to discover that superpower and cultivate it. And then be able to share that with people and how that can impact others. And just, I think, as I said before, of like that consciousness piece and realizing that that's part of our human experience too. Like we are the physical form having the emotional experiences, but there's also this consciousness part of us that we can utilize and bring into the human experience. Like that was a really incredible moment of, discovering that superpower of who and what I really am. There's so much more to me than just, grinding away at my job and wondering what's the point of my life. And then I realized, okay, well, some of the point of my life is these skills, other abilities, superpowers I have that I can share with others in a way that feels like, getting to be of service. And, so the superpowers are there. And it makes me think about telepathy as well as something that I think, is something we all have the ability to be able to do and is going to come online. And it made me think at the start of our conversation that it's almost like this is not real, but the part of us that is already the technology that we just haven't had the consciousness for, the vibrational frequency for, and that's going to happen. That's coming. So it made me think of like we've got the two kind of tracks, like we're just more and more of awareness of who and what we are. And then the option, of course, to like enhance that with technology or whatever. But if we wait long enough and we like give it a little focus and attention, like we could just become more of who we are in an enhanced way.
Totally.
It's all there. Like nothing needs to be inserted. And, even in my own experiences of like, experiencing different levels of consciousness, like it's just a practice and an awareness and an attunement. It's completely possible.
And it's happening.
And it's a time being facilitated or like encouraging, or at least not even encouraging, like it's happening, as you said. Yeah.
It's becoming easier and easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like yes, we can work at it, and it's like the circumstances, the situation is primed for if you want to activate that superpower. You can both cultivate it, and it's happening anyways.
And just be careful that someone doesn't prescribe you a medication when it comes online. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, ask more questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to go, Vanessa? Do you have something you want to say?
I'm sure I could think of something to say, but if you have something coming through, go ahead.
Yeah. So I love what you said, Kate, and something that I just want to make sure is mentioned is that, the whole transhumanist agenda is just this ego that we believe that we can do it better, right? That we have, godlike powers. And something that popped into my mind when Kate was talking earlier was Frankenstein. And so I plugged that into ChatGPT while we're talking about how does that story represent this whole transhumanist agenda. And these were the 4 points that it brought up was the pursuit of godlike power, the absence of soul, alienation from nature and self, and ethical responsibility of the creator. And so it's like, if that feels like very anti-life, very, and so I think it can sometimes get overwhelming maybe, or like what are we supposed to do to combat this agenda that's happening? And it's like, we just need to be in alignment with nature, with our soul, with God. Be ethical, be responsible. And that whole ego control matrix does not win when we choose the path of alignment with these things. And so we like you said earlier, Vanessa, just trusting this process, this evolution of consciousness, that in the end, like really, I think this transhumanism agenda is an attempt to squash this evolution in consciousness that's happening. It's happening. And it's just like the whole transhumanism control matrix agenda is just getting louder and stronger, because it's like consciousness is just happening. The evolution of consciousness is happening so fast, rapid, and in an expansive way that it's like, oh, it has to get louder to try to rein it all in, but it can't. It's like the train has left the station. It's happening. And so I don't think that we need to be aware of it, but we also, if we're doing these things, like, this is how we prevent it from destroying humanity, which I think is probably the core of many people's fears of it, is like that it's going to destroy humanity. And it's like, it only destroys humanity if we let it. And so it's like taking back that power.
I also would love to add to that I think a lot of what we see in the larger narrative today, whether it's about transhumanism or another topic that keeps us in this state of like fearfulness, is that instead, and it takes a little bit of practice to get into the state of mind that I'm about to share, but to basically be like, thank you for bringing up the transhumanist agenda, because now that you have, I am even more clear about what I stand for. Mm-hmm. So the louder that we get, the more rooted and embodied we get around what we stand for. It's almost like, it's just, it's funny. It just strikes me as laughable because it seems so huge. Like, I see the things that show up on my YouTube feed or whatever, and it's like, watch out, AI is going to take over. And you see all these, like, I got on Netflix the other day. I'm like, why is everything so dark? Why is everybody so like vapid? Like, what is going on here? And yet, if you can just step outside of that and almost see it as this, bubble of existence, this tangled up, scrambled bubble of existence with a lot of noise bumping into each other, all these words bumping into each other, and just say, thank you. You have just returned me to me. Mm-hmm. And now that I am here, here's where I'm putting my foot down. And I think the more of us role model that, the more the narrative changes, the more people come back to themselves, the more they take a stand for what they really believe in, and take a stand for being human, take a stand for life, take a stand for Earth. Like, I feel like we actually have such opportunity here. And I also want to humbly remember that not everybody is wired with this default, right? Like, I grew up in a setting where my parents were like, screw authority, go your own way. Mm-hmm. Like, fuck them. Like, really question everything that they put out there, put your stamp down on your life, and you just move forward as bold and bright as you possibly can. And I was like, but how do I fit in? They're like, well, you don't. I'm like, well, shit. I mean, so there's a reconciling that we need to do around our voice, our claiming of our stance, our remembering, our owning of that, our trusting of the process, and our relating to other people. Like, I feel like even in this new age or spirituality space or whatever, the awakening conversations, like, it can be also as vapid as like the stuff on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's trying to, it's like spiritual escapism is a real thing. And it's like, hey, come back into the body, have a conversation with me. This very quick story just illustrates, connect it back to the nails thing. I did my nails, I don't know, probably when I was like 20 or 21. And I remember I was dating a guy at the time, and he held my hands and he looked down at my nails and he was like, why are these on here? And I'm like, I don't know, they're pretty. And he said, but they're not you. And he said, I see you, and it doesn't include these. And there was something about his willingness to see me, his authenticity in saying that, his presence, like all of it, that I just like went home and, tried to take them off, and I never put them back on. And I have So that's not my now husband. My husband has those same qualities, and he's always reminding me, he was like, that's not you. I see you. And so to have that reflection, whether it's in a partner or a friend or a coworker or, whoever shows up as, like, reach for that and like be that for other people, because that's what helps us take a stand for ourselves and for each other. And then when we do, all these like big scary topics aren't as much, because then not only do we have God on our side, we are then God incarnated. We put the stand down and we say no. So I hope that this conversation really evokes that kind of energy for a lot of people, because I see that as the domino effect, the game changer that is needed now.
Yeah. Well said. I think I trust and so, like, yes, I'm aware of the scary word, but I also think that if we want to stop it, just focus on the creation, focus on the things, focus on the connections, the living as best as we can with what we have. And and so the fear only feeds that. And so, we have the power to in this situation, and forgetting that is when the transhumanism wins, when we forget that we have power.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Like, just remember that we have it. Exactly. Like, and just being aware of ourselves and, our own stuff, where we get stuck, bring that awareness to that, do the work that we need to do, and embrace all of the ups and downs of this incredibly joyfully challenging, hard human experience, because that's why we're here. It's the human part. We're going to be at some point pure consciousness, and that's the whole other wild ride. Like, that's even better than AI. So that's why death isn't something to be afraid of, because where we go after that, AI can't even start to, not that we're aware of it, but whatever. Still, I can't wait. I look forward to that moment. That's a bit of a sidetrack, but thank you, ladies, so much for an incredible conversation. We're going to invite all of our listeners to leave their comments, thoughts, feedback, and hopefully we'll have Vanessa back again soon for another conversation. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll join you in the next episode.